Hello, everybody. Today I will be talking about the state of South Australia. Why? Because we recently received a few invitations for 190 and 491 nominations for offshore applicants. So, for those of you who have been waiting for their nominations, Victoria has been conducting its rounds, but sorry to say, nothing much for offshore applicants as such. But yes, the state of South Australia has doled out quite a few, I would say, handful nominations, and we do expect South Australia to be more generous in times to come. So let's get started. First of all, specifically with the reference to offshore applicants, you do not need to lodge any ROI, that is a registration of interest. So anybody who's looking at a nomination, be it 190 or 491, from the state of South Australia does not need to lodge an ROI. ROIs need to be lodged only by onshore applicants. Secondly, you must ensure that if you are lodging an EOI indicating South Australia as your preferred state, you have got the following in place. First of all, you should be having at least 3 years of work experience in the last 5 years in your nominated occupation. And I would personally recommend that you should have a skills assessment clearly stating that you do have 3 years of work experience in the last 5 years in order for you to be eligible to apply for a South Australian nomination and for a South Australian nomination to be approved. Secondly, you must have at least 1 year of work experience in the last 5 years if you happen to be working in the construction industry. Now, other than this, you need to have a positive skills assessment, which is still valid. So, valid skills assessment means that it should not be older than 3 years unless specified in the skills assessment. So, let's say if there's a skills assessment that says that it is only valid for 2 years, then you need to make sure that you do not put up your EOI with a skills assessment that is older than 2 years. But by and large, majority of these skills assessments are usually valid for 3 years. So it is advisable that you do not lodge your EOI with a skills assessment which is older than 3 years. And in terms of English proficiency, please ensure that your English proficiency test is still valid. For Australia migration purposes, the skills assessment test report form usually indicates that the score is valid for 2 years. However, Australia allows you a concession there, and your skills assessment report is valid for 3 years. So, if you're somebody whose skills assessment report is not older than 3 years, you're good to go. Now, what really happens is that in case your assessment is not valid or your English proficiency score is not valid, the invitation rounds that are sent out by the state of South Australia are sent out through whatever their system is. I am imagining it's kind of computerized, and they do not check at this time of sending out the invitation whether the applicant is meeting the eligibility criteria or not. Therefore, once you get an invitation to apply for a 190 or a 491 nomination, the onus is on the applicant to see whether he or she has the valid documents and meets the criteria or not. If not, then you should not be using the invitation. You should forego it. And if you lodge an application with invalid documents or documents where you are not able to meet the eligibility criteria, obviously your application is likely to be refused by South Australia. Now, we did have an invitation round. We did see it coming through about 2 3 days back on 13th of November, and we did have a very small invitation round a couple of months back as well. So I just want to give you an idea about the occupations that were invited during these invitation rounds. So we've had invitations for internal auditors, for subclass 190. We've had invitations for private tutors for again 190. We've had invitations for school principals again for subclass 190. We've recently had invitation for a university lecturer, subclass 190, and we've had two invitations for poultry farmers at 75 points each, out of which one poultry farmer happened to have just competent English, that is 6 bands in each section. So for all of you who were a little alarmed by that line that stated on South Australian website that applications will be, high ranking applications will be selected. So people were a little bogged down. They thought that, maybe unless and until we do not have a high score or high English proficiency, we stand very little chances of being selected. So this is right in front of you. An applicant with just 75 points in 6 bands each has received an invitation to apply for a 491 visa. Now, in the end, I would just like to request all of you, those who are seeking invitations, those who have already received invitations and have put up the applications with the DHA, please remove any and all EUIs from the skill select system that are no longer needed. So what really happens is, for example, somebody has floated multiple EUIs, he or she gets an invitation, let's say from NSW, lodges the visa application, let's say for 190, but the EUIs for South Australia, for ACT, for Victoria are still there. What happens is that when these states conduct the invitation rounds, they happen to select the applicants who've actually indeed lodged the application with the DHA and no longer actually needed those EUIs. So the invitation technically goes waste. So in order for the prospective migrants to maximize their probability of getting an invitation, it is a request, it is a very humble request, that in case you've received your nomination from a state or you've put up your application with DHA, please remove your EOIs from the skills select system, withdraw your EOIs, so that the computer system that is sending out the invitations does not send it out to people who no longer need those nominations. Also, if you're somebody who has an expired assessment or an expired English proficiency score, or has lodged an EUI which is in some way incomplete or probably not meeting the criteria, please withdraw those EUIs as well, so that is being sent out by the states are not wasted. So I will end it at that note. I look forward to being with you again next Saturday. That will be it for today. Until next time, bye bye and take care.